And we'll just wait just a couple of minutes. I mean, we're live right now, so like we can just talk about whatever. Yeah, I mean, it was tough doing prep for this show. Yeah, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like because there's so much that we're gonna cover
Right.
tonight.
Right. Well, like even me forgetting stuff. Like it's not
Yeah,
that the stuff isn't important. It's just like you're making a list of books and games and comics and like
yeah,
especially with comics if you want to get like really into it, like you're gonna forget stuff because there's so much. And like
yeah,
even like when we're like at UTN like putting guides and stuff together, like sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing because there's so much stuff to pull in. It's like
yeah,
I know what these books are. I promise. I've read them. There's so much. Oh, you
yeah,
know what? It's good though because I am of the opinion that there's no such thing as too much Star Wars, and
yeah,
if you feel like it's too much, you can pick and choose what you want and leave the rest. And you know what? That is fine. You are
yeah.
free to do that, and I love that.
Yep. I'm just letting a few other people know that we're live, and then we are gonna kick this thing off.
Come
Yeah.
join us. It'll be fun.
Yes. Stay with us.
Hello, if you're here. I can't actually. Where is the? Oh no, I didn't mean to click
You're
that.
fine. No, we might have viewers right now. I don't know.
Is anyone there?
Yeah,
Are
no.
we talking to no one? Are we just
I
talking
mean,
amongst
if
ourselves?
if people have to miss it and then catch it on demand, it's fine, you know?
There you go.
I mean, I'm just happy to get the viewers. That's all. I'm
Yep.
just happy to
There
talk
you
Star
go.
Wars, you know? Um,
Yes.
anyway, welcome to the live show. This is episode 25. My name is Eric Mitchell, and I'm one of your hosts. Once again, Dana will be back very soon. She's been busy with work and spending time with some family. So yeah, she'll be back very soon. We have a great show for you this week. It is all about canon. Yes, I would do the Christian Harloff Jedi Council thing from the old Collider days. You know, the what's the deal with canon? Yeah, like I would do that, but I'm not going to because that's his bit. Well, actually, I did it anyway. Um, and talking canon with us is Meg Dow from Utini. Meg, it's awesome to have you once again. I know the last time that we got together and we talked, we had a really good time. Um, and yeah, how are you? How was your week? How was your weekend?
I am, all things considered, I'm pretty great. It's so good to be back.
Yeah,
And hopefully this time we won't be quite as sad or angry at Kevin Scott as we were the last time. Or we will be the next time. So, this is like an in between. It's like a palate cleanser. It's like
yeah.
we're just gonna have fun. No sad times, maybe. We'll see.
Let's face it. I mean, if Kevin Scott doesn't break our hearts, Justina Ireland's going to. Claudia Gray's about to shatter our hearts too.
Oh,
Um, but that's for in a couple of weeks. Um, right now, this is a happy time. This is a happy space.
yay, yay.
We're gonna talk all things canon. Um, yeah, no, had a really good weekend. Got caught up on Ted Lasso, which if you've
Ooh.
never watched that show, I can't recommend it enough. I've been through that first season like 5 times now.
Oh my.
It's so good. It's so funny. Um, yeah, other
Yeah,
than that, yeah,
I haven't gotten to it yet, but I keep promising everyone who I tell that to because the reactions I get are, well, why not? And I'm like,
yeah,
I promise I'm getting to it. I
yeah,
mean it this time. I do. I'll get there.
yeah. No, it's really really good. If you want like a really good positive comedy, then definitely check that out. And then
Yep.
also got caught up on What If,
Mm.
which I was meh about this week's episode, to
Uh-oh.
be honest. No, it was entertaining, but we're not here to talk about that stuff. I don't know. I'm just making conversation here, people.
I'm also behind on that because like this is the Marvel show I promised myself. I was like, I'm not gonna get behind on this one
Yeah.
because I still haven't seen the last two. I'm like, I'm gonna watch it every week. I'm 2 weeks behind already. It's fine.
No, it's fine. Um, I mean, you missed some stuff, but it wasn't like it's whatever. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying. It was a long week. Anyway, so yeah, we are talking about canon tonight, but before we get into that, just have a couple of quick news bits that won't take too long. This week we had the Tempest Runner excerpt, which is Kevin Scott's next High Republic entry. I have not listened to it yet. I kind of I'm holding off because I just want to experience this thing, all together. Like I don't want to listen to the
Mhm.
excerpt because I'm gonna want more.
Right. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but you listened to it. How was it? Or you've actually
Um,
listened to the whole thing.
I I I don't listen to audiobooks at normal speed. I listen to them very quickly because that's just the kind of person I am, I guess.
Okay,
So I listened to the entire thing this afternoon.
all 6 hours.
I yes, it's fine. It's it's very good. I
Yeah,
these audio dramas, like they're not perfect. Each of them has had like things that like I'm like, oh, that could have been a little bit different, or
yeah,
I'm not sure how I feel about that. But like overall, if you like look at the whole thing and like really think about like what went into making the thing what it is, and then also
yeah,
in this case, Kevin Scott, they're so well done, and like they're in a lot of ways they've gotten better every time.
yeah,
And like this one, just like especially because it's set in the High Republic, and this is the first like audio drama within this era that we're getting.
yeah.
It has like so many things about the past two audio dramas that I've liked about a character that like we really didn't know a ton about,
Hmm.
and like oh, you get to know her, and it's so good. Yeah, when I listened to the excerpt earlier this week, like it was over, and I was kind of like, that's it. I really would like some more. So yeah, I like definitely if you're gonna start listening to it, like I will warn you that it's probably going to be hard not to or hard to stop. So you're gonna want to listen to the whole thing all the way through. I mean, you don't have to, but highly recommended.
I think out of the two that we've gotten, I think Dooku Jedi Lost is the stronger of the two.
Hmm. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, the Doctor Aphra one is tons of fun,
Hmm.
and
Oh yeah.
it's some of the best like Star Wars audio drama. I mean, it's some of the best Star Wars storytelling out there. But I think Dooku Jedi
Hmm.
Lost is better when it comes to these audio dramas.
Hmm.
And for Kevin Scott to do these audio dramas for Star Wars, that really taps into what he's been doing with Doctor Who and Big Finish, where he's done
Right.
some audio dramas for them as well, and they've been some of the best like Doctor Who stories out there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I am excited, especially now that we're post Rising Storm. I'm really excited to see how this is going to play out, especially with Lorna D.
Hmm.
Um, and we do get Avar in this one, right? And Avar's
Hmm.
in this, and is Elzar in this, or is it Stellan?
Oh, neither. Neither of
Oh,
them in it?
cool. I have to look
No,
at the
yeah,
cast
because
list again.
it's really like most of it is like her it goes it goes back and forth in time a lot, so it's her like at different points in time.
Okay.
It, the Jedi stuff though, like that is in it. It's not like a ton, but it is really interesting, which surprised me because it's not about the Jedi. But
Yeah.
again, being in this era, you have to kind of like continue to showcase like what they're dealing with, and it's really well done. And I'm blanking on the other thing I was going to say about it, but oh, the thing about like because I did love the Dr. Aphra audio book
Yeah.
drama, whatever they called it. But I think there is something special about these original stories
Hmm.
because Dr. Aphra was based on all the stuff from the comics, and there might have
Yeah.
been some stuff added in. I'm not totally sure, but these original stories doing it this way, it's really good. Kevin
Yeah.
Scott, I know that we talk bad about you sometimes, but you're great.
Looking at the cast, no Stellan and no Elzar. You get Avar, Kiev, and Skier
Mhm. Yeah,
in
yeah,
this. Cool.
yeah.
Um, so that is so that's for Tempest Runner, and then going to gaming news, we got Gamescom was this week, and we got the official trailer for the Skywalker or Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Just want to call it the Skywalker Saga. Like I keep forgetting to put the Lego
Right,
Star Wars in front of it.
right.
Um, and as far as we know, this is going to cover all 9 movies. From what I've heard, they're adding some Rogue One stuff to it as well.
Ooh,
And then I heard possibly some Mandalorian stuff. That is my buddy Joey McDermott, who's been on the show a few times. He's told me a few of those things. Looking at this trailer, I gotta tell you, it looks beautiful. It
it
it,
does.
it looks great, especially on these new next gen consoles. Um, However, do we need this game? No,
I mean, do we
no,
need any of this?
no. Well, no, we really don't. Um, I mean, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be fun. It looks like it's gonna have a lot of the great comedy that makes these Lego games fun.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I haven't played one of these games in forever, and like
Yeah,
it really like at least the first one, the original one was like major in not in my like whole childhood, but like in terms of me getting into gaming. It was like one of the first games I played.
yeah,
And like my brother and I, because we had a PC, we had it on PC, not on a console, and like you could play two-player, but you needed like you used the whole keyboard. So like we were trying to play both at the same time, and it was a disaster. And our parents were not happy about that. But like like that stuff I remember, and like
yeah.
it's some of that is like it brings back a lot, and like no, we don't need this game, and like it's taking forever, and like who knows if it's actually going to come out in the spring. Let's just hope. We need
I,
something to hope for, but yeah,
I
it'll be good. It'll be fun, regardless of
yeah.
when it comes out, because who knows.
I am cautiously optimistic for this one
Yeah.
because I have a feeling we're gonna get another delay. I just have a feeling like spring 2022 is gonna roll around
Oh no.
and they're gonna be like, oh wait, just wait 2 more months, just wait 2 more months.
No. I mean, so many things are getting delayed though. It's like, would we really like should we just expect it at this point? I don't know. I don't know what to feel anymore.
I mean, we need to have hope.
Yes.
We gotta have hope. Um, I am. Well, that's like you ask Joey and John like with Gamescom coming up. I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna get Fallen Order 2. It's gonna be announced at Gamescom. It's gonna be that one more thing because they didn't do it at E3, and then they didn't do it during EA Play Live, and we're gonna get that one thing. And no, it didn't happen. So like,
No.
I've learned to temper my expectations
Mhm.
when it comes to Star Wars games from now on. And that brings us to our first topic when it comes to canon, which is gaming. These 4 Star Wars games, actually, there's 6 Star Wars games I would say that are actually part of canon. Um, we are looking at Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. We have Star Wars Squadrons. We have Jedi Fallen Order, and we have Vader Immortal and Tales from Galaxy's Edge.
Mhm.
Um, oh no, there was that one mobile game that came out before The Force Awakens. And they said that counted as canon too. I am blanking on that game. It goes to show you how much I played that game. Uh,
Oh no.
um,
Why
and
don't I feel like I know what you're talking about, and I can't.
yeah, It was because they released it on that first Force Friday when we got
Hmm.
like all of that merch and stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I remember starting to play it, but I honestly I don't remember what the name of the game was. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, chat.
If anyone knows, help.
I mean, you know what? Let me just Google it real
Oh,
quick.
okay. Just Google
I'm just gonna Google it. Star Wars mobile game 2015. It was Uprising. That's right. It was
it.
Star Wars Uprising. It was
Yep.
produced by uh, Kabam and Disney Interactive Studios and was released on September 9th, 2015. So yes, that
Yep.
was yep, that was that first
There you
Force
go.
Friday. On September 22nd, 2016, it was announced that all servers would be shutting down on November 17th, 2016.
No.
So yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
I just remember just the problem with mobile games. Let's talk about mobile games.
Mhm.
The problem with mobile games is it's pay to win. Like
Right.
they set you up with so many microtransactions that
Hmm.
it's absolutely ridiculous. I know that there's a few of my friends play Galaxy of Heroes, which I mean, if you play Galaxy of Heroes, that's great. I just really had no interest in the game.
I mean, the thing about it, because I totally get it. I've been playing Galaxy of Heroes for 3 years. I've never spent any money on it, and I've
Yeah,
barely made any progress. It's
yeah,
like because that's how it has to
yeah,
work. And I'm like, I'm just gonna keep slowly chipping away at
yeah.
Bo-Katan. Like it's gonna take 4 more years, but
Hmm.
it's fine.
Yeah, my buddies John, Joey, and Pat were like talking about how some of the Bad Batch came into the game
Mhm.
this year, and then they were talking about like everything that you needed to do to get the Bad Batch.
Oh yeah,
And I was
it's
like, I barely have time to play my Xbox or games on my PC.
right.
I really don't have time to do this.
Maybe it's Galaxy of Heroes that's preventing me from playing literally any other game.
It might be.
Did I finally just
Yeah,
figure it out?
I think you
Is that
did.
what the problem
Yep.
has been this
Yep.
whole time?
That's what the problem
Well,
is.
now I know.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay,
time
so
to delete the game. Delete all your progress.
listen, that is 3 very long years of
Yeah, I
progress.
know.
Do not ever do that to me. Oh
Note to
no.
self, if I really want to make Meg mad. I mean,
Listen, like I know I said I have not made a ton of progress, but like it's still 3 years worth of progress.
yeah.
Don't don't
No.
hurt me. I've spent
No.
way too many hours of my life on this game.
Yeah. No, I get it. And like I said, if you play that game, that's awesome. I mean,
Mhm,
I'm not judging, I'm not saying anything derogatory about that because I think the concept's just really cool. It's just I realized that it just wasn't for me.
mhm.
Um and if that makes me sound a little douchey, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
Uh
mean, I totally get why like mobile games like that are just not some. It might not be your thing because like
yeah.
for me, like I do like things that are like um you know story mode or like you can progress by actually playing and not have to keep paying things for anything. Like
Yeah.
and I like a little bit of mix of that. But if you don't want to spend way too much time every morning when you wake up, leveling up your cast of characters that you're working
Yeah.
on, like I totally get it. It's the same thing every single day. And
Yeah.
if that's not for you, I mean there aren't a ton of other Star Wars games like that
Yeah.
are current right now, but which is the other problem. But hey, you know what?
Yeah.
We take what we can get at this point, I guess.
Yeah, I think like the whole microtransaction thing, that's what got me to stop playing Pokemon Unite also.
Mhm.
Like I just didn't really care for the microtransaction thing.
Yep.
Um moving on to other games. Then we had Battlefront 1, which was in 2015 as well. That one was complete multiplayer and really no
Mhm.
single player campaign.
Mhm.
And that one got three DLC packs with it. We got Cloud City, uh, Rogue One, or was it two? I think it was
Was there
only the.
another one?
Here we go again. I mean, Google is my friend right now. From
For real.
2015 DLC packs. It was actually I could just look it up at the GameStop here. So the season pass was. Come on, just tell me what it was in the season pass. It was four expansion packs.
Oh.
According to that, let me see here. Here we go. Guess I'm going to Wikipedia. Um,
Mhm.
okay, so it was okay. So it was Battle of Jakku. We had Outer
Oh, right.
Rim. We had Bespin, Death Star, and then we had Rogue One, Scarif, and Rogue One. That's right. If you had a PlayStation VR or a VR PC, you could do the X-Wing VR mission also, which scouts the Death Star.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, that one I remember playing a lot of. I actually did the VR mission at my buddy Ian's house, and
Oh.
that was really really crazy and wild. Um, but I think my favorite DLC pack from that had to be the Rogue One one because we were
Mhm.
just like right around that time. Did you play Battlefront 2015?
I did, and, and like I tried the multiplayer thing, and like my brother and I played and things like that. But like I remember not loving it, at least compared to the original games, just because like there wasn't like a campaign that you could do. Because the thing about like that one thing I always loved about like the campaigns is like it teaches you how to play the game, and
Yeah,
you get to practice with whatever. And so like when I would finally go to do multiplayer or whatever else, like I actually knew what I was doing. And
yeah,
like, cause I like having that, and so like not having it, just it felt kind of empty to me. I definitely didn't play it too much, which made me sad because I was like, I loved these games, and like when
yeah,
I heard they were making more, I was like, yay! But it wasn't quite the same, and I yeah.
yeah. Um, I feel that they kind of missed their mark without doing a
Mhm.
single player campaign to Battlefront 1. Because you could have easily done a story that led up to the events of The Force Awakens or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
Um, but, we did get that, with the sequel, and we're going to talk about that
Mhm.
here in just a minute. Um, I just remember really just being intrigued by the Rogue One DLC and everything, but
Mhm.
I didn't want to pay $50 for that DLC pack.
Right.
So like when it got on EA Play for free with all the DLC, I said,
There
okay,
you go.
that's when I'm really gonna play this,
Right.
and downloaded
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That's a lot for an expand for a DLC. I mean, maybe I guess not really, but still.
It was the season pass, which don't get me
Yeah.
started on that stuff.
Oh no.
Especially if John and Joey are here, they know how much I hate just paying for extra stuff in games sometimes. Um, it depends on the game. And then
Yeah.
in 2017, right before The Last Jedi, we got Battlefront 2,
Mhm.
which had a single player campaign as well as the
Mhm.
multiplayer. All of the DLC that we got for Battlefront 2 was free. However, EA was charging you for loot boxes and cosmetics and
Mhm.
weapons and everything, and that turned the fan base off quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Um, then a few months, well, actually about a month after the game launched and after a lot of fan backlash, they finally
Mhm.
decided to do away with that. And we got some huge updates. We got all the
Yeah.
Last Jedi stuff where Crate was a big map for a big battle or for a galactic conquest. We got Um, we got some extra maps for Starfighter or the Fighter Assaults. We got Kessel for solo, which was really big. And then we
Mhm.
got that huge Clone Wars update, which was
Oh yeah.
and then I don't think we got like a few things for Rise of Skywalker, but not a lot.
Mhm.
And then the last big update was Scarif, and they said after that they weren't going to like really support a lot of, you know, they weren't going to do any more DLC for this game.
Mhm.
Did you play Battlefront 2?
I did. There was a point where I played it like every day for a while, which is not really a thing I normally do, but like I really, especially compared to the one that came out a few years before that, like I loved it. I loved the maps. I loved the different characters that you could play or like unlock. I just really, there was just something about it that I loved, and just like at the time knowing that they were continuing to update it and like that stuff was just going to become available. That just like was really cool to me because I it was really fun, and like I'm terrible at multiplayer. Like I can't, I'm too competitive and I can't ever be as good as anyone
Yeah,
else.
I get it.
I'm just um I get upset with myself. I'm like, why am I not better? I'm like, because you don't sit here
Yeah,
playing all day every day.
some of us
But
have
I
jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But I even like tried it a couple times because I was like, I mean, I can't be that terrible, right? I mean, I was, but like, hey, I tried. And it's like I miss it. I actually haven't played it in a while, and I might do that after this, honestly, because
yeah,
it's just so fun. And like I yeah, it was really good. Yep, I don't know what else I was gonna say there, but
no, it's a great game.
yeah.
It's fantastic. I actually have it on my Xbox as well, um, and I still play it occasionally.
Mhm.
Um, the single player campaign to the game is actually really solid.
Mhm.
Iden Versio easily became one of my favorite characters because of that campaign.
Yeah.
Um,
I I still haven't finished it. The
I won't.
single player campaign.
Okay, I won't give anything away. Um, but God, what's Shriv is like one of my
Yes.
favorite characters too. Uh,
Yes.
and I want him in that Rangers of the New Republic show, like whenever they get that off the ground.
Please. I want that too.
And he provides great comic relief, and his back and forth with Lando is a lot of fun throughout that
Mhm.
game. Um, we also had two Battlefront books that came out as well, that tied into the game. We had Battlefront Twilight Company, and then we had Battlefront 2 Inferno Squadron, which Battlefront 2 Inferno Squadron is a prequel to Battlefront 2,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
deals with the relationship between Iden Versio and her father for the most part.
Mhm.
Um, and then Twilight Company is just God. Alexander Freed can just keep writing Star Wars novels, especially when it's like
Please.
based on military stuff,
He's
because
so good at it.
he really is. What
Yeah.
they did with Twilight Company, and I've just started the audio version for Twilight Company.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I've read the book like years ago,
Yeah.
but I was like, I had an extra Audible credit, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna check this out,
Mhm.
and it's so good, and Jonathan Davis just narrates it so well.
He really
Um,
does.
he really does, and
Yeah.
just I love all of the characters and their personalities and everything, and it feels like Twilight Company feels like Saving Private Ryan in space.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. For the longest time, I couldn't like pinpoint like what does this remind me of, but that's exactly what it is, and like that's why it's so good
Yeah,
because Alexander Freed is so good at like putting you in like not just like writing about like battles and war and soldiers, but like the people fighting the wars and like
yeah,
what they're going through and like why it matters.
oh
Like it
yeah.
really makes you care on a completely different level. And like, how does he do that consistently every single time he tries? And like, I'm gonna need him to write so much more, please.
Yes,
We need
yes,
it.
and we'll get to more of his stuff here
Hmm.
towards the end here. Then we had Jedi Fallen Order, which if you have never played that game, first off, what are you doing with your life? Because it's absolutely amazing. Um, that game, it feels really special to me.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's such it's a more intimate look at like what a Jedi post the purge goes through.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I remember being like so excited, like just knowing nothing about the game,
Hmm.
just knowing that we were getting a single player story-based game that was
Yes.
Star Wars, and knowing what they could do with that just made me look forward to it so much. And then like, okay, if you haven't figured this out about me already, I don't finish games that I start all of the time, so I have not finished this game. I do know what happened, so like
Okay,
spoilers
so you
don't
do
matter.
know. Okay.
I do know. Like
Okay.
I will get through the rest. I will get through more than two levels of the game at some point. But just the fact that like it's not just another like, oh, this Jedi survived Order 66 story. I mean, it is that, and we've
Yeah.
gotten plenty of those. And you'd
Hey,
think that
Ellie.
that would start.
Sorry. You're good.
No, it's fine. You'd think that would start to get like repetitive, right? But
Yeah.
the way that they told this story and the way that
Thank
they
you.
incorporated this into the gameplay, like it's brilliant and it's fun. And I mean, it's not there were some parts I got stuck on. I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm doing. But like that's good. Like you don't want I what I don't want, honestly, is a Star Wars game that I can just get through in like 2 seconds. Like I
Yeah.
want to be challenged and I want a good story, of course, but like I
Yeah.
also like want the gameplay to like really immerse me in it and make me think and try.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this game is, and I love it.
Um, yeah, it feels a lot like Uncharted. It also
Yeah.
feels a lot like the Tomb Raider reboot trilogy that just
Mhm.
finished a couple of years ago. But I also have to say this about Fallen Order. The game has really high stakes because,
Mhm.
I mean, you are on a quest to rebuild the Jedi Order. But
Right.
it finds a way to just shrink those to make it so personal for Cal
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Seer and the rest of the crew of the Mantis
Right.
that you kind of forget that this has galaxy-wide implications because you're just so invested in these characters. Uh,
Yeah.
one of my favorite one of my favorite parts of the game is in the beginning where Cal and his friend are on the train after the
Mhm.
shift
Yeah.
and they're talking to each other and his friend is just so in awe of Cal,
Mhm.
but Cal's just like, no, I just want to be your friend. I just, like he tries to downplay everything.
Yeah.
And it ends up biting him in the butt. uh
Right. Exactly.
it does, but it's such a small, just intimate moment that, I mean, I personally just love it. I think that Trilla is an amazing character as well. I mean, every character in Fallen Order is just incredible. I was hoping that the Vader encounter wouldn't happen at the end. Like, that's my only gripe with that game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. That's one of those things where I'm like, they could have not done that and it would have been fine. And like,
yeah.
I get like the fact that it was supposed to be like this big shocking thing, but
You kind of
I
see
love
it
I
coming.
yeah, I mean, and like, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in with comics, but like, I love Vader. Obviously, I have nothing against his character, and we have a lot of stories about him. But we
Oh,
have a
yeah.
lot of stories about him, and he doesn't need to be in everything. And
Nope.
I didn't think he needed to be in this, but it's fine, I guess.
I mean, they use him in a decent way. Like
Yeah,
they use him to show off his power.
right.
But you feel his presence throughout that game without even having to see him.
Exactly. Because you know what's going on at that time in the
Yeah,
timeline. Like, you
yeah,
know, pretty much, you kind of have an idea of where he is and what he's doing.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Um, like I think that it would have been interesting to see like more of like it would have been interesting to see more Inquisitors.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like the Grand Inquisitor would should have been like the big bad, like in
Yes.
that moment. Um,
Yeah.
because I'm sure Jason Isaacs would have come back in a heartbeat to do that voice again.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's Fallen Order. It's an amazing game. Play it. It's wonderful. It's beautifully acted, beautifully written, and it's one
Mhm.
of the prettiest Star Wars games I've ever played.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so we had that. That was 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I
I don't
believe
know
it
what
was
time is anymore.
2019. No, it's fine. And then last year we had Star Wars Squadrons, which I know that this got a really mixed reception, but personally, I love this game. I think
Hmm.
it's
Me
so
too.
much fun. Uh, and I love this shift in focus on pilots now that we're
Yeah.
getting with a lot of Star Wars storytelling. And this
Hmm.
actually ties into Alexander Freed's Alphabet Squadron trilogy as well, because they
Hmm.
mention Alphabet Squadron. Hera is in this game as well,
Hmm.
which kudos to them for bringing Vanessa Marshall back as Hera.
Yes.
It's also the first time we see Ray Sloan
Yep.
as well. Which, if you're unfamiliar with Ray Sloan, she is an Imperial Admiral, which we're gonna talk about her kind of a bit during this show, because she shows up in a lot of books.
She does.
She shows up in a lot of books.
She does. And like I forget that. And then I'm like, oh no, she's in this one and oh, and that one too.
Yeah. So buckle up for that one. But Squadrons also tells a more intimate tale about, you get the Imperial Squadron, which I didn't really care about them as much because, you know, um,
Yeah.
but like Vanguard Squadron had just, I mean, the characters in Vanguard Squadron are great,
They are.
and
Yeah.
they're so much fun. Um, and it has a great single player campaign. It has a wonderful single player campaign, and the multiplayer dogfights are a lot of fun. I tried some of the fleet battles, and I got my butt kicked during those, so I tend
Mhm.
to stay away from fleet battles
Yeah.
in Squadrons. What are your thoughts on Squadrons?
I, again, have not
Yes.
finished the campaign yet or played like a ton of it.
Yeah.
But the story, like I know like most of the story, um it is really good. And like again, with this you getting to know the characters and like caring so deeply about, you know, everyone that
Yeah.
shows up. In the gameplay itself, was really good. And like as someone who like doesn't play a ton of games, or I just haven't like recently, it was also very good at like teaching me how to play in
Yeah.
like a very helpful way because like you're doing the first missions as you're learning
Yeah.
how to do things, and that was helpful for me. But
That
again, another thing I would really like to go back and continue, because at some point I need to stop saying I haven't finished this game because more games are just going to keep coming out. And I
yeah.
just, you know,
Yeah. Going to that tutorial is like 20 minutes long.
yeah,
I
just
mean,
so
it
much.
is it is so long. But it's very informative to what you have to
Yep.
do. It
Yep.
sets up the game really well. And then we have Vader Immortal and Tales from Galaxy's Edge, which I haven't played any of these because number one,
Mhm.
I don't own a VR headset. I don't
Right.
own an Oculus. We were actually talking about this for the past couple of weeks, how it would make more sense for, like, especially Lucasfilm Games, now that they're a big thing again,
Hmm.
to port these over to Xbox and PlayStation without having the VR capability. I mean, you could
Yeah.
easily do that.
Yeah.
I
And
think. Go ahead.
They should, and I
Yeah.
can't see why they wouldn't because like it can be one of those things where having the VR experience is like the ultimate goal, but like
Hmm.
if someone wants to experience the story or like learn more about like what the game is like, or even if they want to like try the game before they take the next step and do VR, like if that's something they want to do, like
Yeah.
give people that option for sure.
Oh yeah. I think that yeah, you want to have that immersive experience, but Fallen Order gave us an immersive experience without even doing VR.
Right, exactly.
I mean, and you could easily do a first person immersive experience without having to go to VR. I know that they did it because they wanted it to be like a new form of storytelling
Mhm.
and stuff like that, but you are you're alienating a good chunk of your audience by just sticking
Yeah.
to VR for this.
Yeah. Mhm.
And just think of the money that they'd make.
Oh man. That's why I'm surprised that they haven't done it
Yeah.
for like that for that exact reason. Like so many people would immediately be like, "Yes, I would like to play this, please."
Yeah.
Um, I mean, because VR, like, it will get less expensive, but not
Yeah.
anytime soon.
No.
Like, I'm pretty, like, I don't know exactly how much, like, the newest Oculus is, but I looked it up recently for, I think, what was, I don't remember, but I looked at the price and I was like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no thanks.
Actually, you know
Still,
what? We are going to Google it right now.
here we go,
Oculus.
back to the Google. It's just
I'm
all
sorry.
Google.
I love it.
No, no, it's good. It's good.
It is $300.
Yeah, yeah, no, nope,
Yeah. No.
nope.
No, thank you. Um,
And I would love to try VR at some
yeah.
point. I would love to at least like try it once. But especially for someone like me who like doesn't I just don't have time to play games like super often, even though I would
Yeah.
like to. I'm not going to invest in a $300 thing if I'm not
Yeah.
going to use it that often. Like I just can't justify that, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that. It's
Hmm.
hard enough getting a Nintendo Switch is which is like
No, no.
$300.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's I mean now granted I won my Xbox Series S through a contest, but still
Nice.
that's a $300 console.
Right.
And yeah, I play it, but I don't play it as much as I think I should.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
but having Vader Immortal and Tales from Galaxy's Edge on an Xbox or a PlayStation, I think would be good. And you could slowly release it like they did on the Oculus, like
Right.
with updates. So yeah, give me the
Right.
first two chapters of Vader Immortal and then split the others like as $6 DLC or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I would do it.
yeah,
I would try it.
yeah, exactly. But it's whatever. Um,
Yeah.
Tales from Galaxy's Edge is pretty cool because it takes you to Batu, and if you haven't been to Galaxy's Edge at Disney World or Disneyland, it's a cool way to experience that as well.
Mhm.
Um, but because I'll tell you, it's a lot more expensive to go to Disney than it is to,
Right.
to play a video game. Um, I mean, we were just there back in May, and it was
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a cool way to explore it and to kind of feel like you're part of the story there as well. And I think that that one would kill too. So I don't
Right.
know. Anything else about gaming other than we don't have time to play games?
You know, I think it's funny how we don't have time to play games yet. We are faced with possibly another delay in a game that we really want to play, and we're
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna play it for the first like week, and then who knows when I'll touch it again. But like, I understand the delays, but please,
Yeah. I
please
mean,
give us more.
I kind of only want to play Skywalker Saga because I saw that you can play as a Porg.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that is fantastic.
Yeah, and you know what? Kind of just want to fly around and mess with people,
I want
you
to
know?
fly around as a porg.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that sounds great.
Maybe you can co-pilot the Falcon with Chewie. Um,
Oh, on
so
it.
yeah, so let's move on here. We are going to be talking about comics now. Um, there's a lot here. Um,
Hmm.
just gonna go down the list and then we can just talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm actually gonna have you take the lead when it comes to talking about this stuff. But we have Star Wars, both main series. They did one that took place between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back that lasted 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
Um, and now we are in the time period between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Uh, we have Darth Vader, which it was split up between those two times again. Poe Dameron, which was done as a prequel and tie into the sequel trilogy. Vader
Mhm.
Down, which was a huge miniseries event. War of the Bounty Hunters, which is continuing right now. I can't wait for the Crimson Reign spinoff from that.
Yes.
Doctor Aphra, which once again that's been split up into two series, and we had Kanan. I'm sure I'm missing a few others. Kanan is about our boy Caleb Doom, aka Kanan Jarrus. You know what, Meg? I'm gonna let you take the reins on this discussion here, and talk about the comics. Where would you like to start?
Well, I guess we can start with like the fact that there are a lot of Star Wars comics like ongoing right now, and
Yep.
like if you've never read a Star Wars comic, or you haven't in a while, where do you even begin?
Oh,
um,
there's even
because like,
bounty hunters. I forgot
oh
that one
yeah,
too.
oh there's that one too. Oh,
Yeah.
there's so many. There's so many coming into my comicsology. I just like
Yeah.
I'm not caught up on anything because there's a lot. The nice thing about like comics that are currently coming out is like there's only if it's a single issue, it only takes you like 10 minutes to read, if that, every
Yeah.
week. But like there are so many, it's so it doesn't take too long. But you know, it's an ongoing commitment, which is why similar to games, I'm behind on everything. But um,
I am too. It's fine.
yeah, I think the nice thing about the thing that they do well with these comics is like including familiar characters that make it a little bit easier to get into a comic if you never have before.
Yeah.
Um, like the 2017 for the not the first
Uh
Charles, whichever Vader one came before the one that's going now.
oh, that was
Um,
it was the okay, so yeah, there have been three Vader books now.
yeah, there
Um
was
it was Dark Lord of
2015.
the Sith was
Yes.
the yeah, that was 2017. That was the one
Okay,
that
yeah.
ended with Mustafar as the final
Yes.
story arc. Yeah.
Which was great. So that was
Yes.
actually my first Star Wars comic,
Oh,
like
nice.
ever, because I never, I wanted to get into them, and I don't know why I picked that one. Maybe it's because it was ongoing one, and I was like, I know who Darth Vader is. But like, it takes like characters that you might be familiar with, and like tells, puts them through different stories that you have not read before, and
Yeah.
this is a good one to start with because like it starts like right after, why am I blanking on the name of this movie? Revenge of the Sith. Wow, it's my
Yeah.
favorite Star Wars movie. I don't remember what it is. But it starts off right there, and it just continues to like get better as it goes on.
Yeah.
And like for me, that was the perfect one to start with because the story, at least beginning, was familiar,
Yeah.
and then seeing where it went from there because it's between, it's before A New Hope and where we see him again. So it's like him dealing with, you know, all of the terrible things that he's done, and like where is he moving forward? Like, can he get, what can he get Padme back? Like, it's all
Yeah.
this wild stuff, and it's great. But like, I mean, sometimes you just have to like pick a character and like figure out, are they in this comic? Like, am I going to learn more about them? Do I know anything about this story? Because like the Star Wars mainline ones, um, are kind of like the same thing where
Yeah.
they feature a lot of familiar characters. I don't follow that one as closely just because, I, you have to pick and choose sometimes. I just, you know,
Yeah.
but I have completely just like gone all over the place, which may not be super helpful,
It's
but
fine.
I think Poe Dameron was actually, I think, my the comic that I got into like right after
The
I started Vader, and
Poe Dameron's very good.
it's so good. And um I like how, it's like a prequel, but then it's also tie-in like when you get
Yeah,
towards the end, and like it kind of explains like, oh, why was his squadron not in this battle in this movie, and
yeah,
it and it, even like a little bit of more of like exploring like his relationship with Leia, which I really
hmm
liked. Um I I still think that comic ended too soon. Like I get it.
it did.
But I could have done with like a lot more of that. But it also ended where it needed to at the same time. So
Yeah,
maybe we'll get more of him at some point. I mean, he does also have a novel, like an origin story type novel,
yeah,
so
Free
maybe
Fall.
not.
Yeah,
But yeah. Um, but yeah, I think the only like downside, if you want to call it that, to like the comics in general is that there are just so many happening at once, and it's hard to figure out like what's happening where. Like, can I
yeah,
jump in? Because like with the 2016 Afro, like I jumped into that one like in the middle. Like I hadn't read anything that had happened like before this, and I just jumped right in, and like I actually ended up being fine. Like, because the thing about ongoing comics is like you want to read the whole thing, but if you
yeah.
happen to just start somewhere, like like the stories are um contained enough issue to issue that like you might be okay. Um, so you don't have to always start, like at the beginning, especially with that one. But um, yeah,
Excuse me. Yeah.
uh,
But yeah, no, the Afra one is really good. The
mhm,
2016 Afra, because even if you just read the one issue of Vader that she's introduced in, you can
right,
just go on from there and just read
right.
her series. The only time that it really gets complicated is when they get to the Screaming Citadel story,
Oh yeah, yeah,
um, which for an event, it's okay. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's okay. Um, I mean, I enjoy these Star Wars comics, but like you said, there's tons. There's so much
Hmm.
of them.
Yeah.
And you got to pick and choose your writer too, because Jason Aaron
Yes.
wrote the 2015 Star Wars book, and
Hmm.
it was entertaining. It was really really good. But Charles Soule has written the Vader stuff. He wrote Poe
Hmm.
Dameron. He's writing the current series now. And if there's like one comic book writer that I think really gets Star Wars, it's Charles Soule.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and Greg Pak is killing it with the current Vader series too.
Yeah.
Which
Agreed.
that Exegol story was fantastic.
Hmm. Yes. Yes,
Um,
it was.
um, but then we had the Kanan book, which I think is actually really good. It
Hmm.
went, I think, 24 issues. It didn't really go that long. I
No, it was
think,
pretty short. Yeah.
yeah, it was a pretty short run, but it was very entertaining. It was very insightful into who he was.
Yeah.
Writing is hard. Yes, Elliot is hard. Um, it
Yes, it
was,
is.
but it was very insightful into who Kanan was before we
Mhm.
see him during Order 66.
Yeah.
Um, and it shows how who he becomes in Rebels, and I, I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on that Kanan book?
I am a huge Rebels fan, and I actually didn't pick up the Kanan comic until pretty. It was a long time after I finished the series, which I also
Yeah,
watched after the fact because this is just the kind of person I am, I guess. I
it's
get around
okay.
to
I do
things
too.
eventually. It's fine. But I'm fine. I'm not behind on everything.
Yeah.
Um, but going back and reading basically like his origins
hmm
and where he came from, and like what he's still dealing with up to
Yeah.
the point where we like meet him, it's fascinating. And like we knew like kind of what went down, but like not like everything in between.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. Like I
Yeah.
didn't I don't for some reason I didn't expect to have as much fun with that one as I did. Um It might actually be one of those that I go back and reread at some point because like
Yeah,
there's a lot that I don't remember. Um, because I'm pretty sure I read it pretty fast because I was into it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And if we could get more comics like that for
yeah,
other Rebels characters, that'd be great. That'd be fine. I would not
yeah.
be upset about that.
Ellie in chat says, "Did you like the cover art?" Kanan had some fantastic cover art.
It
The
did.
the, the cover
Agreed.
art in Kanan was fantastic.
Yeah.
Then the interior art was really good too.
Yeah.
It did a great job of keeping things modern and then flashing back when it needed to. Yeah, the Kanan series is absolutely beautifully drawn, especially
Mhm.
with cover art.
Yeah.
Another one of the books that I think is beautifully drawn is the Poe Dameron book, especially with Phil Noto doing the
Yes.
covers and doing some of the art for that book. And to see Phil Noto's High Republic covers are amazing too.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just real quick side note. I cannot recommend the High Republic series enough just because of the art. The art
Yeah.
is fantastic. I mean, and Kevin Scott just writes a hell of a story.
Hmm.
But like when it comes to comics, the current Vader run from Greg Pak is really interesting. I know that I mentioned the Exegol arc, but what kind of shoes do they wear? I don't know what kind of shoes they wear, Ellie. They wear boots. Um, but the Vader arc with Exegol was great. But the one where he runs into one of Padme's decoys in the
Hmm.
first story arc is fantastic. And
Yeah.
to see Vader kind of revert to Anakin a little bit, like when he
Yeah.
first sees the decoy, is
Yep.
it's so telling because you can just tell that good is still in him. Um,
Yep.
even with everything that he's going through. And you still see him struggling with that even through that Exegol arc
Yeah.
and what they're going through now with War of the Bounty Hunters. It's really hard to keep up with comics. I know that I'll pick up most of the stuff in trade. The only thing that I'm really picking up monthly right now is the High Republic and High Republic Adventures.
Yeah.
Um, I'm picking up War of the Bounty Hunters here and there. But then again, there's so many tie-ins to that. Um,
Yeah.
my John and I were talking about that this week. Like he messaged me and he said, "I can't believe how many books like this story is tying into."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, it would be nice just to read just the main book and just
Right.
be able to enjoy it, but it seems like you have to read every single Star Wars book or every single
Hmm.
Star Wars comic that ties into War of the Bounty Hunters now to even get like what the story's about.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's like it can be difficult to like even follow too because when it first came out, like the first issue,
I'm
you know,
listening. I'm just
I
reading chat also.
it's fine. Um I was told that like there's going to be a spoiler and like if I should read it if I didn't want to be spoiled. So I
Yeah,
jumped right into it. I couldn't figure out what to read first though. I was like, do I
yeah,
read this issue? Do I read this? I think I read the wrong one at first. I mean, it ended up being fine, but because you could end up like reading stuff out of order at that point if you don't
yeah,
know which one to pick.
yeah.
But yeah.
Another thing is, I'll answer your question in just a second, Allie. Another thing is like we had no idea Kira was coming back. Like they
No.
they didn't hint at it at all in any of the series.
No.
She kind of just shows up in War of the Bounty Hunters. Um, and like Charles Soule, like in that first issue, like kind of lays the seeds a little bit because she
Mhm.
keeps talking about a tide and crimson and all this other stuff. But to see Kira come back was really really cool. And then
Yep.
those guns in that Vader fight. Oh man, her arms. Um,
Yep.
So, Ellie, your question, do you think they are plastic or leather? His shoes are leather. What if Vader didn't wear black and wore navy? Do you think he would be as impactful and memorable? Yeah. I mean, it's Vader. Yeah, like Vader's gonna come into a room and own any room that he's in just because of who he is.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, to answer your question, I think that they're leather, and I think he would still be impactful and memorable. Um, but comics, it's just been interesting to see these various comic series and how they expand on these stories that take place in
Mhm.
between these movies. What Jason Aaron did with the 2015 Star Wars run was just a great way to set up them trying to find Echo Base
Yeah.
for Empire. And then Vader Down was awesome too. Like we all knew Vader wasn't going down in that comic, but just
Right.
to see him get cornered like that and for them to showcase all of Vader's power.
Yeah.
If it is leather, what would they use to make it? A droid, a manufacturing droid. And then, oh, if you're talking about what leather, probably from a bantha. Um, that's what I'm thinking. Um, but yeah, with Vader down, to see his power was incredible. And
Mhm.
to see him cornered like that. The great thing about these Vader comics is you really get to see how vulnerable he is.
Yeah.
Um, and how yeah, he intimidates everybody, but you look at him and he has a lot of doubts and he struggles a
Yeah.
lot through those
Mhm.
books. Um, and I think that's the power of comic books storytelling. Um,
Yeah.
we just get to see, we get to see their thoughts without like really seeing their thoughts, just through their
Yeah.
facial expressions and everything.
Right.
Which Vader has no facial expressions, but you can tell like he's going through stuff. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. What else do you have to add about the comics?
I really do think like uh it's so intimidating to try to decide even what you're gonna read or like
Yeah.
decide because even it gets to the point sometimes where you're like, okay, I have to pick one line that's going on right now and just follow that one. The nice thing is that you can do that. Like
Yeah.
you're the thing about comics is like you might be missing out on some stories, but for the most part, like you're not gonna miss you're not missing out if you need to like wait and read a comic like later.
Yeah.
Like it will if even if you like subscribe to it and just don't get to it for a while, which is what I end up doing a lot of the time, like it'll
Hmm.
still be there later.
Yeah.
Um and like I mean there are occasionally things like with Kira showing up in a comic that like just kind of explode everything for a while and you'll hear about that. But like for the
Yeah.
most part, like it's adding story in between things that we already know about and like
Yeah.
I love the in between like in between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back because like we got some stuff in Legends but like in canon we didn't have a ton so like I love that they're filling that in. It's stuff like that. It's like whatever era or characters you just want to spend more time with, like comics are really just a good way to do that because
Yeah.
there are a lot of them and they just keep going. So
Yeah, and if you're curious about a series, I could not recommend trade paperbacks enough.
Mhm.
Or graphic novels, you could say, but because they collect like four, five, 6 issues. Sometimes they'll collect full events, so you'll be able to
Mhm.
like read everything. So if you're looking to get into a comic and you don't want to, do comicsology and you'd rather go to a comic book store and pick stuff up, trade paperback is the way to go, in my opinion. Just
Mhm.
wait a couple of months, and whatever current story arc is going on will be put in trade form, some way or another. Like the first 4 or 5 issues of the High Republic series just came out in trade form,
Mhm.
and that started in January. So just wait a few months, and you'll be able to get it. Um,
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to comics, I would recommend the main Star Wars line. I would definitely recommend the Vader stuff. And then rounding that out, I would probably recommend Poe Dameron.
Yeah.
Um, I think Poe Dameron is the most fun out of those three recommendations.
Yeah.
Um, but if you had to give three recommendations, what would it be?
Um, Definitely, I would say the current Vader line
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
I had a hard time in my head choosing between that one and the one before that.
Hmm.
Um, uh, I would also go with Poe Dameron. It's such a good sequel trilogy, like prequel slash tie-in.
Yeah.
If you want more of that content, like it's there, and you're right. It is really fun, and the story is really good, and it ends in a really good place. That's
Yeah.
all I will say about that. I'm also going to recommend Afra.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
so good for so many reasons. Even if like you've never really heard of that character, you're not sure like if it's really your thing, like trust me, just try it.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time putting one of those down if I start reading it because it's really good. And her character, can you even call it character development? You can. That's not fair. That wasn't very nice. Um her the way her character just like continues to learn things and then continue to make mistakes, and
Hmm.
it's fascinating to me. I love it. And yeah,
She's like Indiana Jones. She's the Star
yep,
Wars Indiana Jones, essentially.
exactly.
Um,
So good.
yeah, she's a great character. I cannot recommend her enough either. I would also recommend her audio drama as well,
Yes,
um,
absolutely.
just because of the production value to that. So let's move on to our big category now, which is books. Um, it's it's so much better with this new canon because we have a lot of books, but we don't have as many books as we had with Legends.
Right.
Um,
So many.
I think after High Republic, we're gonna have a lot of books. Um,
Yeah.
but with new canon, it starts with a new dawn, which is a great jumping on point, especially if you're curious about Rebels. This is a great Kanan and Hera book. Um, let me see here. So you have a New Dawn. Tarkin is really good too.
Mhm.
Dark Disciple, which is a Clone Wars novel that features Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Voss, which is, oh god, it's so good.
So
Um,
good.
Alphabet Squadron trilogy, which Alexander Freed. I'm not going to go into spoilers in this one, but I gotta tell you, that trilogy is hands down some of my favorite Star Wars stuff I've ever read.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
audiobooks are fantastic to that too. Of course, there's the High Republic, which we are not even knee deep into. We're ankle deep in because
Right.
we have so much more going on with that. Timothy Zahn wrote a new Thrawn trilogy, which ties into Star Wars Rebels as well as Galaxy's Edge,
Yep.
which that Thrawn trilogy is great. We have the Thrawn prequel trilogy, which we're two books in now. I just finished Chaos Rising, really enjoyed it.
Ooh,
I'm waiting.
yes.
I will be starting Greater Good after I finish Out of the Shadows. Um, we have Lost Stars, which is Claudia Gray's first Star Wars book, which is well, Lost Stars is great. It's a young adult novel, but it doesn't feel like it at all.
Mm-mm.
It's long though. I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
right
Oh,
now,
yeah.
it's long.
It's huge.
It's a big book. And then you have Claudia Gray's Bloodline, which is great. That deals with Leia pre-sequel trilogy, and dealing with her lineage to Darth Vader. Um, what do you have on your list? Because I know you have some of the stuff that I have, but what else is on your list?
Um, Phasma didn't get a ton of like screen time.
Yeah,
So if you're interested in that more about that character and how she got to be the way that she was, that novel is fantastic. And I'm
yeah,
not just saying that because Phasma is like my favorite character. It's not the reason at all. It is a really good book.
yeah. It
It
is.
is. I will say it's a lot darker than you might be expecting for a Star Wars book, and
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons I recommend it because it's ooh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite
it
something.
it covers some stuff.
It does.
Yeah,
And also Black Spire, which is not technically a sequel to that novel, but sort of is because it features a lot of the same characters. And it's
I
like a
would call it a
continuation of some of
sequel.
their stories. We could call it a sequel. Let's
Yeah,
for our purposes, let's say that.
yeah.
Phasma's not in it. It's fine. I'm not upset. I mean, there's an obvious reason why. But
Well, there is an obvious reason. Um, yeah,
yeah, so there's that one, and Vi is
Vi
uh
Marati. Yeah,
an amazing character. We need more of her. We have not gotten
and
enough.
she's the only character from books actually in theme parks.
Yes, which is amazing. Like,
Yeah,
imagine being Delilah Dawson walking into Galaxy's Edge, and I'm like, I created this character, and she's standing right in front of me.
yeah.
Like, I want that. That's amazing. Um, what else? The Aftermath trilogy is also pretty good. Did you talk about that one? Why am I
Okay,
blanking?
so I did not mention it. I have a love-hate relationship with the Aftermath trilogy.
A lot of people do. I think, it's a good setup for um a sequel trilogy as a whole,
Yeah,
but it's understandable why, for a lot of reasons, for the writing and
yeah,
things like that, that it's not as easy to get into. That's fair.
yeah.
But the characters, though,
The
are
characters are
really good.
great.
Um,
Um, and
Especially Mr. Bones.
yeah, oh, I love Mr. Bones. And
Mr.
it's
Bones is
also
great.
the introduction to Cobb Vanth as well.
Yes, that's
Which
right. I forgot about that.
yeah, I will say this. Okay, so let's just talk about Aftermath real quick, and then
Hmm.
we'll dive in. Yeah, my problem with that is the writing. Um,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
I had such a hard time getting into that progressive second person
Yeah.
narration, and I feel like they rushed the first book out way too fast because there were a
Hmm.
lot of editorial errors in that book as well.
Hmm.
Not saying that Chuck Wendig didn't do a good job writing it.
Right.
Um, I just couldn't get into. I mean, I've read all
Mhm.
three. Um, Gallius Rax is another great character.
Oh
Ray
yeah, that's right.
Sloan is featured in this as well. Um, Snap Wexley, we get to see teenage Snap Wexley, which is fantastic.
It is.
Um, Mr. Bones is his killer battle droid, which Mr. Bones, I just want a series of just Mr. Bones, honestly. Just him
I
doing.
was gonna say he needs like his own comic.
Oh yeah.
Like,
If
why
three
not?
if 3PO could get one about the arm,
Exactly.
then Mr. Bones could get a miniseries. Like make it a
Oh,
3-issue miniseries. Just do that.
please. It's not
IDW
too
or
late.
Marvel could do it.
Yeah.
I don't care. One of the two companies could do it. But yeah, like I just couldn't get into the writing. I just felt that it just fell flat.
Mhm.
Plus, it feels a little too angsty.
It's so much different than any other Star Wars writing.
Yeah,
Um
it is.
like if you are uh into Chuck Wendig books, like, in general, and you come to these books, like, you're good, because it's him writing Star Wars.
Yeah,
Um I do think that if they'd given them a little bit more time, they may have been able to work on maybe making them more feel more Star Wars.
yeah.
It's hard to describe if you haven't read them, like, what we're kind of talking about, but yeah, that's a common complaint, though.
Uh,
If you can get past the writing, like, overall, and I also recommend, like, trying to listen to them too, because, like, I listened to what was I listening to? I listened to a part of one of them for some reason, and
yeah.
it kind of hit different. So
Hmm.
it maybe, like, that writing just works better listening to it as opposed to, like, reading it.
Yeah,
It depends, like, yeah.
yeah. I also feel like the story isn't as cohesive as it should be
Hmm.
because it
Yeah.
feels like it skips around a lot, especially
Hmm.
between books. It feels like
Yeah.
there's too much of a time jump. But then again, I love the High Republic, and there was a year time jump between Wave One, and Wave Two.
Right.
Um, but so Aftermath, if you want to give it a shot.
Yeah.
But go on. You were talking about Black Spire, which that's another great guide to just that whole theme park as
Yeah.
well. Because Delilah S. Dawson just like lays out like the entire layout of
Right.
the outpost.
And the thing about that is that was kind of like a concern, like when it was first announced. I remember we were talking about it and we were like, is this just gonna be like, is this just marketing for Galaxy's Edge? Like, is this just gonna feel like they're just trying to sell the theme park to us? But she immerses you into that world so seamlessly. Because it could, you could technically, like, it is that because they're taking you through, because they're there,
Oh
so
yeah,
they're taking you through everything and whatever, but like it doesn't feel like that at all
no,
because
the
it's so important to the story.
the
So
cash grab is there, and
yeah,
you can tell that it's there. Um,
yeah,
but no, like the story to that book is just so important, and
yeah,
it tackles so many big issues too.
yeah.
Like one thing that the Phasma book tackled that Black Spire also tackles is torture. And I got to tell you,
Yeah.
Vi Marati is like one tough character because she goes through a
Hmm.
lot in both of those books.
Yeah.
Um, there's that, and then just seeing like her trying to like now like going to like is like after I read the Black Spire book and like
Mhm.
I went to Galaxy's Edge this past May for like the second time um and then like getting to ride Rise of the Resistance and going through the caves, I was like, "Oh, I know where we are because I read the book." and
Yes.
and just going through all of that and then like going to the land, like it enhances that book so much and the book
Yeah.
enhances that experience so much.
Right.
um I still think that it would be fun if Kolgar Calf was actually the bad guy at Galaxy's Edge
Ooh,
and not
that'd be
Kylo
interesting.
Ren. But you
Yeah.
know, spoilers. Uh,
No, no.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but no, like or Wolfgar Calf, I should say. But yeah, that's a great book. What else do you have on your list? I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, and nope, nope, it's fine. What else? What am I forgetting about? Uh, there's one where is it?
Um, I would also say Catalyst is another good one.
Oh, that's right. Oh, and also, the young adult books,
Yeah,
of which there are many. I do not judge them too harshly
yeah.
because they're young adult. Like, read Ahsoka, read the Queen's books,
Oh
read
yeah,
Rebel Rising is still like one of my favorite Star Wars books ever.
I'm gonna check
They're
that one out.
so deep and emotional and
Yeah,
like especially like seeing Jyn Erso like because Rebel Rising takes place like between um when she has to go into hiding and when we find her in Rogue One. It's like all that in between. And you're seeing her like with Saw Gerrera and like realizing like the kinds of things he's doing and like what it means and for her to like go through all
yeah,
of that. And then like you get the moment like 'cause she mentions it in the movie, so it's not really a spoiler, but you get the moment where he leaves her.
yeah.
And like how heartbreaking that is. Like it's stuff like that in these books. Like
Mm,
they're labeled as young adult because of the age of the characters, but like the stories and what their meaning and what they bring to Star Wars as a whole, Ahsoka still is also one of my
so good.
favorites. And which has meant something different to me. I think I've read this book like three times. I read it most recently after season 7 of the Clone Wars ended because
Hmm.
we got Victory and Death.
Yeah,
And so I read the book again like right after that and I was like the book is completely different now
yeah,
because of that story that we got and we see like why she is the way she
yep,
is in this book because of this television show. Everything ties together so well and I love how they're doing that with books and comics and all the shows and things because like no, you don't have to consume everything, but
yeah.
like there's something about like
It helps.
having like a favorite, yeah, like having a favorite character, like let's say Ahsoka is your favorite character. You get her in this show and that's great, but then she has this novel. And
Hmm.
it's just like you're getting more of her in between when you see her again in Rebels, when
Yeah.
you see her again after that in The Mandalorian,
Hmm.
whenever Ahsoka, the TV show, is going to take place in the timeline or multiple places. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But the books just, they're so good for. those moments where you're in between a show and you're like, I want more of this character. Well,
Yeah.
there's a book. And you can like even if just check it out, because a lot of times like you don't know what to expect and then you open up this book and you're like, oh, this is really good.
hmm and I have to say, E.K. Johnston is one of the best writers in Star Wars right
Mhm.
now,
Yes.
especially with her Queen's books. Her Ahsoka novel is just amazing,
Hmm.
especially the audiobook. The audiobook to Ahsoka is fantastic because
Hmm.
Ashley Eckstein narrates it.
Yeah.
And then they also get Kat Tabor to narrate the Padme books, which
Hmm.
is great.
Yeah.
So a lot of these books, I've read a lot of them, but I've also done audio for a lot of them too.
Hmm.
Um, there's another one that I'm forgetting, and that's Master and Apprentice. Uh,
How could we forget about Master and Apprentice? Oh no.
that one is so good.
Oh, it is. It's like everything you wanted from like the beginning of the Phantom Menace, which is like Obi-Wan Kenobi is very young. Like
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
it's so good. And like what I love, this is like at the beginning of the book, so I'm not spoiling anything, but
Mhm.
Master and Apprentice starts off Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are not getting along. Like
Yeah.
as Master and Apprentice, they're clashing. Like it's not working. Like
Yeah.
to the point where it's almost like, oh, I'm going to move on and you're going to get a new master. It's like that. It's just not working. And knowing that eventually they go on to have this bond that changes everything. You're like, how do they get from
Yeah.
we're not communicating in battles, it's not working to that? How do you get there? And
Yeah.
that's what that book is. That's what it is. And it's so good. And there's a really good twist in there too. I don't know what Star Wars is doing lately with all these twists that are very well hidden, at least for me. But I'm sitting there like continuously being surprised, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know why you're doing this to me right now, but I'm not mad.
Yeah. Master and Apprentice just yeah, to take what you said, like it takes that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon relationship that we see in the Phantom Menace, and turns it way upside down.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so entertaining, and it fleshes out Qui-Gon so
Mm,
well.
yeah.
Um, and I don't know what it is with most Star Wars books lately, and having them talk about like Jedi hooking up. But like they keep talking about that too in Master and Apprentice,
They
because like
do.
there's this one Jedi, like he just goes against the rules because
Yeah.
Claudia Gray like blatantly tells you that he goes against all the rules. And like I'm kind of thinking, Qui-Gon, you know you've gone against that rule. Like I just
Yep.
have a feeling like Qui-Gon's gone against that rule.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah. Um but like what they do to Qui-Gon is especially like with the Force vision like that they give
Hmm.
him in that book. I'm not going to
Yeah.
go into too many details because if you have not read that
Hmm.
book, do it. It's amazing and it ties
Hmm.
into Dooku Jedi Lost perfectly.
Oh, it does.
Like I just have a feeling like Claudia Gray and Kevin Scott were probably just emailing each other back and forth while they were writing both of those.
Yeah, that's so
Um,
good. I love how like especially with the High Republic, but like
yeah,
we don't know in other books too, like the authors that are writing in Star Wars right now are communicating
yeah,
all the time. Um, and like even if their stories don't have to like completely connect, like there's these little details
yeah,
that don't contradict each other because like I mean that's the story group too. Like they're keeping
yeah.
track of like every little thing, which
They're
thank
doing
you
a lot
for
better
existing.
job.
Yes, agreed. But it's the combination of the things, but like the author is just like knowing like, oh hey, this author loves this character. I want to do this thing with this character. I'm gonna talk to them about that. And it makes everything feel so I mean it's all well done, but it makes it feel just so much better somehow.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that they're doing that.
Like another great example of that is in Last Shot. Daniel Jose Alder writes about Sinjir Rathvelis, who's in Aftermath,
Yeah,
and his now husband. Like he
yeah,
writes about that couple,
right.
which I just thought was really interesting,
Yeah.
and fun. Um, And then I saw on your list you also had the two certain point of view books. I've only done the first one. I have not listened to the
Mhm.
second one yet. But that's a great retelling of A New Hope.
Yeah. I love them because um you don't have to read every story if you don't want to. It's
Yeah.
not like it is they do it so that every story is like continuous chronologically throughout the movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a companion to the movie if you want it to be. But there are stories that like I've gone back and read just like by themselves because they're so good after the fact.
Hmm.
And they're just so fun. Like
Yeah.
it's just like this little thing about this completely side character that was on screen for like 2 seconds that you never thought about ever has this whole like backstory, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh, this is emotional. Why am I having emotions about this creature that I knew nothing about? Um, and I really hope that they keep doing those, because they're so good. And the other thing I really appreciate about them is it gives them an opportunity to bring in so many new authors.
Yeah.
And a lot of authors that like just wrote one story for a certain point of view have gone on to write more Star Wars things.
Yeah.
Uh, because if there are 40 stories for each one, you need 40 different people to write a
Yeah.
story. And you can just like they can reach out to so many different people and you get so many different perspectives on Star Wars and
Yeah.
so many different writers with so many different backgrounds. And um that is like one of the benefits of doing that like is just so good, and they need to keep doing that.
Yeah. The one story in From a Certain Point of View that got me was the story about R5D4.
Right. I think
Um,
about that all the time.
and how he literally sacrificed himself for R2D2.
Exactly.
Um, when he didn't have to,
Right.
because R2's kind of a jerk to him.
Exactly.
I mean, R2 is kind of a jerk to R5D4, but just like
Yeah.
knowing that he does that in order for that to happen to R2 is just it gets me every time.
Yeah.
And then the whole Master and Apprentice short story that Claudia Gray also wrote between the conversation between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon is
Hmm.
it's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Um, I also want to mention the Clone Wars short story
Mm.
book as well, which just takes
Yeah.
some of the episodes of Clone Wars and just writes them in short story form. That's very entertaining too.
Hmm.
Um, I okay, so I want to get to audiobooks here real quick too, because you and
Hmm.
I do some audiobook stuff as well.
Hmm.
Um, there are certain narrators that I like for certain audiobooks, and then when they do other audiobooks, I don't really like them as much. I will tell you this right now. Any Star Wars book that Jonathan Davis has narrated, I've thoroughly enjoyed.
Hmm.
Especially Master and Apprentice, because his
Yeah.
Qui-Gon impression almost sounds exactly like Liam Neeson. Like
It does.
it's insane. Um, I enjoy Mark Thompson up until he starts doing Thrawn.
Oh no.
Uh, and I think I might have said this to you earlier, but I think his Thrawn sounds an awful lot like Jack Sparrow.
Oh no.
Um,
Am I never going to be able to unhear that now?
I don't know. You
Ah,
might be able to unhear it, but and this has nothing to do with Mark Thompson like as a narrator or anything.
right.
It's just like some of his characters just sound really off or they sound so alike that
Hmm.
like his Han Solo does not sound like Han Solo to me.
No, I that one always bothers me a little bit.
Yeah.
I am not a fan.
Um his all of his kids sound the same.
Now that I think about it, you're not wrong.
No. And like I said, this is no dig on Mark Thompson.
Right.
This is just me kind of just like going back to all of the Star Wars audio content I've listened to and just saying, "Oh yeah, that kind of sounds like that." And
Right.
because they do an amazing job with these audiobooks.
Mhm.
They do an absolutely amazing job with these audiobooks, and I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not
Right.
saying that Mark Thompson isn't talented. He's fantastic.
Mhm.
But a lot of his female characters sound the same too.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
he's still a great narrator for it. But I would take Jonathan Davis and Ewan Morton over him any day, really. But um, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Um,
I What was the first Star Wars audiobook I listened to? I really didn't get into audiobooks until I was listening to Dooku Jedi Lost.
yeah,
And then of course since then I can't stop listening to audiobooks, which is fine.
yeah,
I like them because you can listen to them and do other things, which like saves me time, which I don't have a lot of. So
yeah.
it's nice.
They're great for
Um,
long drives.
oh, they really are.
Yeah.
But at first, when I first started listening to like just straight Star Wars audiobooks, the fact that there was the narration and the
Hmm.
voices, but also music and sound effects
Yeah.
was distracting to me at first.
Hmm.
And because I wasn't used to it, because like, most audiobooks are they just reading the book. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But Star Wars just like takes it up a notch because it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
So at first I was like, oh, there's like music and I'm trying to listen to the book.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get into it. But like the more I listen, I'm like, oh, it actually does add to the experience, and I
Hmm.
really like that. Um, and Star Wars audiobooks are like it's very hard for me to not pay attention to them because like with a
Hmm.
lot of audiobooks, I just accidentally tune them out, like not on purpose. I just you get distracted. But like because Star Wars audiobooks are so like they just pull you in with everything. What I really like doing though, and I recommend this to people a lot if like they maybe didn't get into a story a lot the first time they read it, is reading the audiobook after you've read the physical book because
Yeah.
then you already know what the story is and you're not focused so much on like oh what's going to happen next, and
Hmm.
that way you can go back and like listen and pay attention more to like the writing or like how this certain character developed, and like I think that really helps sometimes to kind
Yeah.
of like read it and then hear it. I do that a lot. If I get like an early copy of a book that I read and then the audiobook comes out later and I'll listen to that again, if I'm writing a review or whatever, and it really helps me like really get more in depth to
Yeah.
like themes and things like that. So
Yeah. One of my favorite audiobooks recently has to be Black Spire. The Black Spire audiobook is so good
mhm,
because
it is.
I believe it's January Lavoie
Mhm,
does all the narration. Her Vi Marathi is perfect.
mhm.
And just the way she does like the different inflections in Vi's voice and everything. Um, and also it made me feel for a truffle pig named Waba. Um, you know,
So good. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just it's such a good book. Now when it comes to like the music and stuff, sometimes the music and the sound effects get way too loud though when it comes to like some of the narration.
Yeah.
Um, so like I've had to like repeat like certain things over again just so that I
Hmm.
could try to hear it again.
Yeah.
Um, but another one of my favorites is Alphabet Squadron. Alphabet Squadron's
Mm.
so good as an audiobook.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Like especially like um the like just like the during the battles, just the way that everything like comes together, like it brings you in so much more because everyone is you're not just reading everyone talking to each other, it's like you're
Yeah.
listening to it as if like you're watching a movie, and like
Hmm.
that just does something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like especially the scene where they're in the orbital cloud and
Mm,
they're like the Imperials and the Republic are both repairing their ships, and then Will's just telling the story about the nebula and
mm,
everything, and then after he tells the story, you just get the one Imperial that says, "Oh no, you're gonna die here, Will Lark." Just
mm,
like
mm.
that whole thing is it's so well done and
Yeah.
so well written. Um, let's get to Alexander Freed since we're talking about Alphabet Squadron. He did the Rogue One novelization, which is also really good too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Expands on everything that we see in Rogue One. The guy can just keep doing military Star Wars books from now on
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'll read every single one of them. Um, all of his characters are so relatable. They're so well written. Don't get attached to many of them. That's
No,
all I'm gonna
no,
say.
no. Nope, don't
Uh,
do that.
because Alexander Freed loves to kill characters.
Mm,
I think that's every Star Wars writer's like every modern Star Wars writer's thing to do now. Like, can we kill this guy? Sure. You know,
but it's such a testament to how well written these characters are
yeah,
because if you're killing characters and no one cares, then like, did you really do a good job of like writing them and making people like want their story
yeah,
to continue? But like, so I guess I'll give him that because like every time he kills a character, I'm like, you're hurting me
yeah.
because I wanted this person to be okay.
That's like in my buddy Joey's reading Light of the Jedi right now,
Oh
and
no.
he's like almost three-quarters of the way through the book, and or no, he's halfway. Yeah, he's halfway. But he was telling me like for the first few chapters, he hates just like all the backstory that each of those characters gets. And then I'm just gonna say this: there are quite a few deaths in the beginning of Light of the Jedi,
Just a few, you know.
just just a few, and some of them Charles Soule just like writes these elaborate backstories for, just for them to be killed. And I was like, oh man, I'm really hoping that this guy's gonna get out of this. Nope. So all I'm gonna say with modern Star Wars storytelling is don't get attached to anybody
No.
because it's rough.
Ugh.
It is
Yeah.
so rough. Um, that said, my last High Republic thing, you better not hurt my boy Buryaga.
Oh no. No,
And
he's in Tempest Runner and like there was a point where I was like, Kevin Scott,
don't do
I'm
it.
I'm I'm gonna need you to take a step back and calm
Yep.
down,
Well,
please.
well. Um, and you better not touch Elzar Man either.
Nope.
Nope.
He's gotta be okay.
Yeah.
That's the one
Which
thing I need out of all of this.
Yeah, which we weren't going to talk about the High Republic, but I have to say this. Have you been seeing like the people constantly asking Christina Ariel using the hashtag THRS questions about the Elzar Man concept art? Like
Oh
there
yeah.
there have been tons of questions about Elzar Man concept art. Um
Oh no.
um it's great. So
It
so
is.
what so when it comes to books, let's do our top 5 here. Um
Oh.
so I'll go so that way you can compile your list.
Okay.
Um I would say I would say I would say Battlefront Twilight Company is one of them because I
Mhm.
think that you really need to get to see um you really need to see the conflict from the
Yeah.
rebellion's perspective. I would say Battlefront Twilight Company. I would say um, I Dooku Jedi Lost is another good one.
Mhm.
It's technically it is a book because it's in paperback form now.
Mhm. Yeah.
I would say that Tarkin is really good because that explores Tarkin and Vader's relationship.
Mhm.
Plus, it fleshes Tarkin out so well.
Yeah.
I would also say Catalyst, and then I would go with this is a three-way tie, and they're all three Claudia Gray novels.
Of course.
I would say Lost Stars, Bloodline, and Master and Apprentice.
Those
Uh,
all those books are so good.
yeah, they really are. They're all good.
Oh, I gotta only pick five. I love them all equally. So I'm just gonna say these are five of my favorites. I couldn't
Yeah,
possibly
that's
try to
that's
rank
fine.
them.
That's fine.
Um, first, I'll Ahsoka, because I talked
Yeah.
about it already, and because I've
Hmm.
read it so many times, and
I
it
would
just
put
keeps
that on the
getting
list
better.
too. Yeah.
Um, oh, we didn't talk about Most Wanted, but if you need more Kira and you need more Solo in your life, that is a Solo prequel,
That's the
and
Ray Carson one, right?
yes,
Okay.
and it's one of the most well-paced
All right.
Star Wars books I think I've
I'll
ever
check
read.
that
It's
one
really
out.
good.
Yeah, I'll check it
Please
out.
do.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I have no complaints about that book whatsoever. Phasma, because
Yeah.
she's my favorite character, and it is just it's I would say it's unlike most of the Star Wars books you've read,
Yeah.
um and in a good way.
It's
And
very
it's
Mad Maxy.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of it is like frustrating, but in that way that you're like, but
It's
I
very
this is fine.
frustrating.
Because you want to know certain things, and it's a whole thing. I could
Yeah.
talk for multiple hours about that book. Um, oh no. You can do this. Um, uh, Rebel Rising. I mentioned that one too.
Yeah.
Just like little Jin so just like trying to make it in the galaxy. You know what? It's not fair. She turned out all right. I mean,
She did.
for the most part.
She kind of did.
Um,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. Oh no. Ooh, and hmm, I can't choose between Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril or Queen's Hope, which isn't out yet, but let's be honest. So I'm just gonna pick that whole trilogy.
yeah.
Um, because for the longest time we were all like, Padme deserved better, and like,
Yep.
well, this is making up for that in many ways. E.K. Johnston is so good at what she does, and
She is.
Padme has never been like a honestly, she's never been like my favorite character. Like, it's not that I didn't like her, it's just like I felt like I didn't understand her
Hmm.
completely. And then these books happen and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is good. um so definitely, like, if you like the prequels, if you want more Padme, and also just like more random background about her handmaidens and how all of that works, which you
Yeah.
never thought that you'd ever care about, but like it's important, especially because now it's important in other ways,
Yeah.
maybe
In the
mainly
Vader
like
comic.
comics. It's
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And like I'm really looking forward to Queen's Hope, which I think comes out in November.
Yeah.
But yeah, ooh, I need it now, please.
Um, yeah, I think the Queen's trilogy is absolutely fantastic.
Mhm.
E.K. Johnston's just another one of those writers that just give me more of just whatever Star Wars thing you're working on.
Yep,
Um,
please.
she has such a great grasp on these characters.
Yeah.
And just the way she fleshes out, like you said, Padme's handmaidens, and then
Mhm.
for Greg Pak to run with that in the Vader
Yes.
comic is awesome.
Mhm.
I will also say this for honorable mentions. The solo novelization's really good too.
Oh,
Um,
it is.
I would say the solo novelization. I'm a huge fan of that movie.
Yeah.
Hence the hat. I have it on in the background here. Um, hashtag make solo 2 happen.
Yes.
Um, I, that book is great because it makes you feel for Han so much more
Mhm. Yeah.
than the movie does. Um, I would also say Zahn's new Thrawn trilogy is great, especially
Mhm.
if you're also curious about Black Spire Outpost. The second book mostly takes place on Batuu,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is awesome. I and I would also say Ascendancy is really good too, and I want more stories that just deal with the Chiss Ascendancy.
Yeah.
Like, just put me in the unknown regions for a while. Like,
Right.
just do a bunch of book stuff in the unknown regions.
Right.
Um, I would also love it if the High Republic went into the unknown regions too.
Ooh. Oh, that
Um,
would be interesting.
yeah, but we don't
Mm.
know. But um, yeah, like I just uh, you know, put a bunch more stuff in the unknown regions, like
Yeah.
because we know there's other. like governments out there besides this Chiss ascendancy. Like,
Right.
do more books about those other governments and other worlds. Um, I don't know. But if you're looking for a place to start, book wise, start with A New Dawn and go from there.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's a good jumping on point. Um, it really does a great job of building on Kanan and Hera's relationship. So I would say that one, and then I would also say, if you're interested in the sequel trilogy, go with Bloodline and Phasma.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I would definitely say those. Bloodline is Bloodline's a great political thriller.
It is.
It's a slow burn. It is a
Mhm.
slow burn of a book, but it's
Mhm.
really entertaining. Um, and Phasma is good because I love Captain Cardinal. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
I even got his action figure like when they did that Galaxy's Edge trading post at Target.
Mhm.
Um, because I just love him so much.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not gonna go into spoilers.
It's so hard.
It really is.
It's so hard not to.
It really
Ah.
is. And then yeah, so that's what I would say. Um,
Mhm.
like if you're, I would also just do the movie novelizations too, because the movie
Yeah,
novelizations are fantastic.
they are.
Rogue One's is intense.
Yeah, I need to read it again. I know I
Yeah,
read it, but I don't remember
it's
it.
so good.
Yeah.
And then I would also say the sequel trilogy novelizations are really good too,
Yeah.
especially The Force Awakens when it comes to that scene between Snoke and Kylo Ren,
Yeah.
and then like talking about the Force and everything. So,
Oh yeah.
anything else you have to add before we wrap up here?
Um, I do think Lost Stars is also a
Yeah,
good possible place to start. Partially because it takes place like throughout, like timeline wise, the entire original trilogy. So
yeah,
a lot of stuff is happening like alongside like events that you might already be familiar with. But it's also a love story, and like who doesn't love that? It's really good, and it's also Claudia Gray, who it just doesn't miss ever.
no,
Everything she does, she's just one of many writers who just gets Star Wars on a level that like
hmm,
not everyone does, and like that's why she's writing it, because her deep understanding of like what about it makes it Star Wars and what makes it matter. She
hmm,
just gets it, and the way she writes characters is just also fantastic. Yeah, I would definitely say like just just try different
yeah,
genres, try different, like if you want to read more books and you just don't like really know what you're into, like try a young adult book or try
yep.
like an adult novel. Like we didn't even talk about Resistance Reborn, but like
Oh,
that's
it's
a
another
good
great
book.
one. Yeah.
Um, like try anything, and like um just like
Even Crash of Fate is another good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that one. That's also a good love story. If you're looking for love stories,
Hmm.
those exist. And it's like it's also easy sometimes to like pick a character you like and like,
Hmm.
oh, what book has this character in it? Well, like if you like Padme, there are those. If you like Ahsoka, there's that one. If you like um, Poe Dameron, he's in a couple really good
Yeah.
ones.
Especially in
It's just
Resistance
like,
Reborn.
yeah, you start with what you like about Star Wars, and there's something which is great about there being so many books now. Is like, I mean, we've gotten so many books in really such a short amount of time,
Yeah.
like in terms of like canon. And with the High Republic, it's just like there's so much happening, and it's so good. And we're not going to talk about the High Republic, but like again, with there being so many options in terms of like what you might be looking for, books are
Yeah.
good.
I mean,
Star Wars books are good.
don't sleep on any of them. Really. I mean,
No,
especially like if you are on the fence and you're like, well, it's just Star Wars. How good can it be? No, I'll tell you, there's some stuff that has happened in books that they have mentioned in movies and in
yeah,
TV shows.
hmm,
So, especially now. So,
yeah,
like, I mean, Alphabet Squadron. Chas Socratic is obsessed with Jyn Erso and
Yeah.
the Rogue One team. Like
Hmm.
she's obsessed with them. So
Yep.
like, just well, how good could it be? They're really good.
They are.
There are some that are a lot better than others, but
Hmm.
they're all at the end of the day they're all entertaining.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm not that big of a fan of Aftermath, but it's still an entertaining trilogy. I mean,
Yeah.
it still has given me a few of my favorite characters with Gallius Rax, Ray Sloane, Sinjir Rathvelis,
Right.
Snap. Like, how can you
Yes.
not love Snap and Mr. Bones?
Exactly. Yes,
Um,
Mr. Bones.
I'm okay without Nora Wexley. I don't really, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but like, and it fleshes out Wedge really well too.
It really does. I never cared about Wedge. I'm going to be completely
Yeah,
honest. I never cared. And then the books came along and they're like, oh, no, you're going to care now.
yeah, especially in
I
that
do.
first book.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. But then like to see Wedge show up in Resistance Reborn also,
Hmm.
um, and interacting with Snap and everything, and just knowing that that's like one of the last times that they're going to interact before
Oh,
Snap
oh, that hurts.
dies.
Oh, oh.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
It,
we're gonna have a Wexley death support group at some point on this show.
we gotta, yeah.
um, but no, like, don't sleep on any of these. Really, just don't do it. If gaming's more your thing and you have not played Fallen Order, do that. Or you want to just play Squadrons, play Squadrons. It's a fantastic game.
Mhm.
With comics, there's so much that we can recommend. Just go to your local comic book store or go to Comixology and just look at something and pick it up. You know,
Yeah,
our DMs are always open too. Like if you need recommendations, like you can always reach out to us as well.
yeah.
And for books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore, even comic book stores are now starting to get a lot of Star Wars books in. Like
Hmm.
they'll just order, yeah, like mine down the street has been ordering a lot of Star Wars books lately, a lot of new canon stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's another thing. We haven't even gotten to action figures, but that's not part of canon. Um, but like if you're looking to get into the story, like I have a supervisor at work that is on the fence about getting into Star Wars, and
Hmm.
I'm like, look, I'll give you recommendations, and just take it at your own pace. And take it at your
Right,
own pace too. Like, if you miss the High Republic by a couple of years, it's okay.
right,
Just grab it and enjoy it.
right.
Just sit down and read it and enjoy it. Do you
Exactly.
do you have anything? I feel like I'm rambling.
No, I mean, yeah, it's like you said, like if if you want to go on some kind of Star Wars reading journey, you want
Yeah.
to experience more of like what you might call the expanded universe, the universe beyond the movies or the shows, you can start where you want to and you can
Yeah.
take it where you want to. You don't have to read in chronological order. You don't have to read everything. Um, in fact, I wouldn't even recommend reading chronological order a lot of the time because
No.
it's just it's you don't need to. You can. The nice thing about there being so many books is you can really start where you want and go where you want. You can not read certain things if it's really not your thing. If you pick up one of the Thrawn books and you read it and you're like, I didn't love that, you don't have to read the next one right away. You can
Yeah.
move on to something else. It is literally your Star Wars reading journey. You can
Yeah.
do with it whatever you want to. And um there and like you don't have to be on Twitter, but like places like Twitter, like there are so many people who if you just say, "Hey, I want to read a Star Wars book. Where do I go? I like this character or I like this
Yeah.
era." There are so many people who are going to help you like figure out what you want and recommend things and tell you like, "Oh, if you like this, you might like this."
Mhm.
The there are so many people reading Star Wars books now, which is fantastic. Like the High
Oh yeah.
Republic. How are we talking about this again? I can't we can't
It's
help it.
it's it's
Um
it's it's fine. Like we're not going to go deep into this, but
right.
like the High Republic is the perfect example of there are so many new Star Wars fans because of the
Yeah.
High Republic.
Exactly. Like people are getting into Star Wars because of books, like not because of a movie, not because of a show, but because of the High Republic books. Like
Yep.
who, how? And that's amazing to me. And like, so there are so many people, especially now, that are reading things. Like you're not alone. There are people who will read books with you at the same time. It's
Yeah.
like a book club, except for whatever.
Which we
Um,
should start doing. Um,
we for sure. So like, don't like it can seem overwhelming, but hey, like
oh,
you got this.
and I'll tell you one thing. It, there are horror stories when it comes to the community, the fandom community.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we don't acknowledge the toxic people.
No.
But I will tell you, the nicest and most helpful section of Star Wars Twitter is High Republic Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Agreed.
those people, like I'll tell you, the authors interact with everybody as much
Yeah.
as they can.
Yeah.
As much as I've thrown Kevin Scott under the bus, um, he is still I still love the guy, and he's great, and he's great at responding to people. Daniel Jose Alder is another great person that interacts with people. Justina Ireland is great at interacting with people. I don't see Claudia Gray on there as much, but I understand. And Charles Soule interacts with some people, but I got to tell you, like people like Michael Siglain from Lucasfilm Publishing, um,
Mhm.
Alyssa D from Lucasfilm Publishing, like talk to them. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, don't like bombard them, but like
Right.
interact with them, and they'll interact
Yeah.
back with you, and they'll
Exactly.
help you out. And like it's great. And like you said, we're seeing more Star Wars fans now just because of books,
Yeah.
where they haven't
Right.
even seen a single frame of a single movie,
Yeah.
and they're reading the High Republic and then wanting to get into everything.
Yeah.
Um, and we're going to talk about this in a couple of weeks for our big
Yeah.
High Republic show, which Meg will be part of, and we have a few other people coming in for as well, and it will be our first meeting of the High Republic support group. Um, but like even like Alphabet Squadron brought in a lot of people that had never read a Star Wars book before.
Mhm.
Um, and more people are picking up Star Wars comics. Like if you look at it, the High Republic is like on its like High Republic number one's like on its eighth or ninth reprinting.
Right.
Like
That's a wild.
it's insane.
Yeah.
Um, so now is the time to get on board. If
Mhm.
if you're curious about Star Wars canon, get on board. Take these recommendations. Ask some other people what they might recommend as well. And not every book is going to land, like you said, Meg. Like you
Mhm.
may read the first Thrawn book and just be like, that was okay.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Or
Right.
you may be completely obsessed with Thrawn by the end of that trilogy.
Right.
Um, just you know, pick and choose what you want to read. We gave you recommendations. And don't sleep on the young adult novels. Because
Mhm.
I gotta tell you, Lost Stars hits hard.
It does.
Um, because that tackles some pretty mature themes for a young adult book.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and I'm definitely going to check out Most Wanted because, like I
Do
said,
it.
Solo is one of my favorite Star Wars movies of all time.
Mhm.
And I'll check out Rebel Rising as well.
Yes, please.
Oh, there's one more that I have to recommend. Guardians of the Wills. Guardians of the Wills
Oh,
is
that is such a good
fantastic.
book. Oh, even I forget about that one. It's so good.
And there's a manga too. Like, so if you're into
Yes.
manga, you can read that. Lost Stars has a manga too. So like,
Mhm.
if you're more into manga, check out Lost Stars and that manga. Um,
There you go.
the Leia Princess of Alderaa's another one that we didn't cover, and that's a manga.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Adventures of Luke Skywalker is another one that we didn't cover. Um, and I would also say Force Collector is another good one too.
Oh, it's
Uh,
so good.
yeah, so there's so many recommendations, but we just want to thank you all for joining us this week. We are going to be back next week on Saturday. Uh, don't know what we have planned yet, but stay tuned. Um, I don't know what we're doing. I have no idea yet.
Something.
Something. I mean, it's like you said earlier with the Star Wars news, like it either hits you like all at once or like it just trickles in.
Right.
Um, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm making this up as I go. No, I'm
There
kidding.
you
I'm
go.
kidding. I'm kidding. So yeah, we'll be back next week at 8 p.m. Meg, thank you once again for joining me. That was so much fun. It was great to talk these books and comics and games, and give people a look at canon.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about books and comics and like helping people really get into, like find out what they like and where they want to start. And like
Yep.
once you start, sometimes you just keep going and never stop and you become one of us where we just can't not read every single book that comes out. It's fine. Um, definitely use utini.com as a resource.
Yep.
I really didn't talk about it at all when I was talking about, how to find books, but literally
Yeah.
guides, podcasts, our Discord. Go in there, like Discord can be a lot, but go
Yeah.
in there, like go to the Canon channel, ask for recommendations. Like
Yeah.
there are literally over 1,000 people in there who will help you.
Yeah.
You know,
And there's
so
even
whatever
go ahead.
just like whatever thing about Star Wars that you like, there is probably a book about it, or similar to that, and like there are people and things
Yeah.
on the internet at UTN that will help you
I,
get to
I
where you want to go.
I will even say there are tons of podcasts where each podcast will cover a book for an entire season, and each
Yeah,
episode will be about a chapter.
yeah,
So check those out too.
yeah.
Um, there's so much out there,
Mhm.
welcome. Like if you're new to all of this, welcome. We're glad that you're
Yeah,
here. Um, we welcome you with open arms. Try not to get hurt too mad, but we'll be here for you.
yep,
Um, we'll shed those tears with you. We'll stay up late and talk with you, and it'll be great. But real quick, I do want to make the announcement for the High Republic show that we are doing. That is going to be September 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern. I will be there. My friend Meg, of course, you'll be there. I have Lavender, the librarian from High Republic Twitter. She's going to be joining us as well. And then I've got a couple of other podcasters with us. We are just going to sit down. We're going to gush about the High Republic. It is going to be a spoiler heavy conversation. We're going to be breaking down the first two waves of the High Republic. Um, so just get ready for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Um, yeah, that's it. We will see you next week where topic's just going to be a surprise. You're just going to have to tune in and see. Um, but that's all. May the force be with you. May you have a wonderful week, and we will all see you later.